get things kicked off. I'd like to welcome you to our Customer Engagement Done Right session here today with IMVU on digital transformation. Myself, I am Lisa Verden. I am actually working for Leanplum out of the EMEA office in Amsterdam. So good morning to you, good evening to myself. I'm happy to be here today and host this amazing session with you. And I'm excited that you're all here, curious to hear what IMVU can share about their experiences. I have some amazing speakers here with me today. From the customer success team, we have Johannes Scheitel. Johannes, could you give a quick introduction?
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. My name is Johannes. I'm heading up the customer success team and the professional services team here at Leanplum. I'm with Leanplum for more than a year, but a professional for more than a decade, and in MarTech for quite some time, and super excited to be here today.
Cool, great to have you here, Johannes. And we have from IMVU, we have Lomit here. Lomit, could you give a quick introduction?
Yes, hi everyone, my name's Lomit. I head up growth at IMVU, where I'm responsible for user acquisition, retention, and monetization. I've been at IMVU for just around 4 years now. And prior to that, I've worked at a number of different startups for the past 20 years, heading up growth. And beyond doing growth, I've actually launched a new book recently called Lean AI as well, which is part of the Eric Ries, the Lean Startup series.
Yes, I think I've seen lots of that on LinkedIn coming by. I think you're quite famous there. So great to have you here today. Thanks, Lomit. So let's get started. Again, welcome for everybody who just joined. Welcome to the Customer Engagement Done Right session on digital transformation in times of COVID-19. We have here Lomit Patel, Johannes Scheitel, and we're going to go and kick things off. We're going to have a panel discussion. So I'm going to go and hand over the mic to Johannes.
Awesome. Thank you, Lisa. That was an amazing introduction. Lomit, I'm super excited to sit here again with you. Although we are remotely and can't sit together, I think it's a different kind of fireside chat. It's my second one during the pandemic time. What about you? I know you're doing a lot of those talks.
I know. I would say, it's a pleasure to be here with you, and I'm having this virtual fire, and that's sitting between us right now. And but yeah, I mean, for the most part, we're just adapting to the new reality, right? That we're in right now.
Awesome. Tell us a little bit. I know you gave a quick introduction, Lisa asked you, but tell us a little bit about IMVU. I'm not sure if everybody's familiar with your business, and head of growth and VP of growth. There are so many different nuances to it. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing and what your company is doing quickly.
Yeah. So just to give a quick overview of IMVU, we're actually the world's largest avatar-based social network app. We started off in desktop, but now we're cross-platform, and mobile is actually where we get the majority of our new users coming in. But generally, what IMVU does is people come and create avatars, and then through the avatars, they create different look and feel to customize how they want their avatar to look. But more importantly, the avatar enables them to connect with other avatars in this virtual world universe of IMVU, where people can create different virtual realities of a lifestyle that they aspire to live. So it's pretty much a social network, but it's a social network where you can actually truly sort of aspire to being who you really want to be. Yeah, in a virtual environment.
So not much has changed during the pandemic, I guess, but obviously it did. Tell us a little bit, we all go through a lot of change, right? All of us are sitting at home right now. I have the Golden Gate Bridge behind me. How did the work environment change for you and your team?
So, as you mentioned, the big change has really been everybody working remotely, and we were pretty early to do that here in San Francisco. I think even before most companies were really enforcing that, we had taken measures because we wanted to make sure our employees and people were safe. But but the other part of that is I think we're very fortunate too in terms of even though we work remotely, we're very connected in terms of being able to collaborate together on different projects, and it hasn't really impacted us that badly in terms of execution. So everybody's adapted pretty well, and IMVU's been, I would say, as a culture, has always had that flexibility where people have worked remotely or from home maybe a couple of days a week, and so it's pretty much been set up from the start to be able to adapt to this, and so that's been that's really been beneficial, especially right now.
Yeah, that's. I mean, it sounds very familiar. I feel like we were in very similar position here at Leanplum. I think the most awkward thing I see is nobody knows still how to say goodbye on a Zoom. It's like bye, and then you find the button to leave, or you wave again. It's kind of it keeps entertaining me for the better half of the last 6 months. Anything I picked up a lot of hobbies. I started playing guitar again over here. What about yourself? Did you, before we jump right in, anything you feel you had more time to do?
Yeah, I mean, put it into context. My commute is usually between like 2 to 3 hours, depending on traffic, from my home to the office. So, on average, I'm spending at least 4 hours in the car, or 5. And so clearly, you can do a lot with 5 more hours. And so, one of the things that I've actually been spending more time on is, I used to love cooking, and I didn't get a lot of time to doing that. So I've really pivoted back into more sort of cooking, and just having more family dinners, and just spending more time just with my family, and that's been very beneficial.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's fantastic to hear. And by the way, I hope everybody on the call who is listening in is safe, and everybody is healthy here. I'm glad you're, Lamed, and everybody in your family. We are in an exciting time right now. We are in a very interesting but exciting time for digital transformation. I mean, a lot of things we are seeing, digital transformation in general has fairly accelerated. And what we are seeing, we are a massive data-driven company, right? I mean, we all are in MarTech. We all need to be, right? The data doesn't lie. And it's so interesting. We have clients all over different verticals and industries, right? We have commerce, we have gaming, we have dating, we have all kinds of really verticals. And we see the clear winners in the pandemic. And I know it sounds kind of odd to say it like this, but we see e-commerce, for example, spikes 20-25% in daily active users, which is massive, right? Online gaming is the biggest winner here with plus 25%. Surprisingly enough, I can even see, and I have the data in front of me, that online dating, and I want to get back to that later, shifted gears tremendously from, not acquiring new people, because, what are you doing with an app right now if you can't meet? But they really changed their engagement model drastically. I want to see, and I want to know from your perspective with IMVU, what are the data points you are seeing?
Yeah, I mean, what I would start off by saying is that, clearly this is a very unfortunate situation that, everyone's going through. So, in terms of, in terms of, like, I wouldn't say winners or losers, but what I would say is that the companies that have been able to better adopt to this, it really comes down to companies that are able to fill a need that's really, void right now. And that, one of the big needs right now is connection, right? Because a lot of people are being isolated, in order to keep stop the spread of COVID-19. And so, in isolation, unfortunately, all humans need some form of connection and outlet. And so, apps around like entertainment, streaming, and gaming clearly provide some kind of outlet. But a lot of these apps have also, even prior to like COVID-19, kind of became like a great sort of social community for a lot of folks too, especially gaming. People don't realize, but gaming is actually, it's more of a social experience than just kind of a one solo experience. That, a lot of people, do gaming with friends. So it provides an outlet where people can still continue to connect. And and obviously entertainment, you need something to do to pass time. So that's done well. And so for IMVU, we kind of sit at that intersection of being a social network and a role-playing game, because the idea is you're creating this you're creating an avatar, but you're also, it's not a typical game where you kind of go through these different levels, because you're creating an avatar, but then it's all about creating friendships and engaging in chat rooms, and then, trying to live this aspirational life that you want. And now more than ever, people want to get an escape, right? From what's going on. And, MView, like a lot of other apps that you mentioned that are doing well, are benefiting because it kind of fits into the new lifestyle, because the big transformation is really that people are spending more time on digital channels now. That's the big transformation. And part of that is e-commerce too, because it's not safe to go to retail now, right? So people that that were already buying online just continue to do more of it. But what's happened is the users, or certain segments of users, let's say slightly the older population that may not have been comfortable transacting more online, have naturally been forced to do this. So it's just brought a whole new shift of new users into the ecosystem. So companies that are able to pivot and adjust to the new changing user behaviors are the ones that are really going to be able to benefit, to do well, not only now, but put the strategies in place to benefit, in the future as well.
Yeah, it's so interesting, and I want to learn more how you do it at IMVU, because I look at our clients in commerce, and it's so interesting how they're adopting. Some of them ran campaigns Christmas in July, right, just to force more engagement. I saw one of our biggest clients did Black Friday in June. Right, it's something we haven't seen before, and you see all those companies are adapting. One of our dating clients, or online dating clients, changed to virtual, kind of like fireside chat sessions. Where do you see the trend in IMVU? Do you see more engagement existing users? Did you change your strategy, or is still the focus acquiring new users during that time?
So I would say with us, it's been a combination of both. In terms of acquiring new customers, what we found was, clearly, we spend a lot of our money on digital channels or social networks, whether it's like Facebook or Google or different like ad networks, and a lot of brands initially, when COVID-19 hit, had a knee-jerk reaction to basically do a reset and really sort of figure out, how to react to that. So for probably a couple of months between like March, April, and and up to like May, the cost had really gone down on these different exchanges where you could actually, where you were buying advertising. So there, we were able to benefit from acquiring a lot more new users cost effectively. But beyond that, the other trend that we've seen is, this has been, at least for us, has been a really good opportunity to kind of go back to users that used to use IMVU and had, disengaged or left us for some reason. And generally, we always have these re-engagement campaigns that we run, using a lot of that great data we get from Leanplum, as well as win backs. But the look back window on that has generally been like up to 3 months. But now what we started doing and noticing is expanding that look back window to 6 months, 9 months, and up to a year. We, generally we never used to get a lot of users coming back beyond the 3 months, but now, in the last couple of months, we've seen a lot more of our former users coming back, and so that's become another part of our strategy to just get smarter around engaging our win-back programs to re-engage users, as well as bringing in the new users. and just making sure that we continue to onboard those new users so they continue to experience the value proposition and get engaged into playing IMVU as quickly as possible and create those predictable habits. For example, helping them to make new friends, helping to get them to engage in different chat rooms, showing them how to shop and customize the look and feel of their avatar, and ultimately about making sure that they reach a certain number of friends within the first 7 days, and because we know that as well as getting them to trying to identify, what's the best way for us to potentially monetize these users, because we have a couple of different ways that our business model works, either through in-app purchases or through advertising, and we're able to make some pretty good predictions based on what users are doing or not doing within the first couple of days to try and identify the ideal user journey that they need to go through to get better engaged. That leads to better retention and ultimately better monetization for us in the app.
I love the aspect with the look back window. I mean, it's something I feel like so many clients haven't, or so many companies haven't done. Some of them are better. If you have the Netflix or the Hulus, you get your emails come back. But especially on the commerce side or gaming side or social media side, you don't see it that frequently. So, do you feel like at IMVU you adapted that strategy because we are in the middle of a pandemic, or would you have done it anyways?
We would have done it anyway. I mean, we've always had kind of an ongoing sort of re-engagement and win back. But generally, when we did it before, we generally found a sweet spot to be within 3 months. And so that's where the majority of our focus used to happen. But, what we started finding, because we always had a longer window, but the results weren't that great. So it wasn't a huge focus, but we clearly saw a sea shift once COVID-19 hit, that the older cohorts that we were trying to win back and re-engage was starting to show some positive signals as well. And that's when we started getting, so what we started doing now is because our product obviously continues to evolve and get better, and a lot of people that haven't been to the product recently are probably missing out on different features and functionality. So it's more about educating them on things that they're missing out on, and trying to give them a better reason to come back and check us out. Plus, a lot of people that used to be on IMVU had friendships on there, right? So it's a matter of trying to remind them about their that they have friends that are still around on IMVU for them to come back and connect with.
That's interesting. So I like to switch gears and talk a little bit about, now we talked how we get the users back, and I can relate to that. I mean, I'm looking at the data I have right now, and one thing that was so surprising when I digged in, and I'm a very data-driven person, is that the engagement on not only with IMVU but other clients as well, we see way more engagement with messages. We see way more engagement with push, with SMS, with email, with all kind of messages. Partly is obviously during the pandemic we can't choose to be on and offline. We are kind of like online is the new reality. But I'm curious, did you see anything at IMVU where you had to make quick adjustments to really double down on the engagement? Do you see the data showing as well that, people are engaging more with messages, people are engaging more in the app, they're spending longer time in the app? What is your assessment?
Yes, so, so a couple of things that we noticed pretty quickly that profoundly went up was just the level of engagement in the product, engagement being time in the product, how much people were engaging in chat rooms, how much people were just engaging in all different areas of the product. And what that had an impact on was our server capacity, because, because we generally are always looking at like daily active users, monthly active users, and we saw a profound increase in our daily active users. And so, one of the earliest things that we had to do to react to that and I have to give a lot of credit to our operations team, was to really be able to increase that server capacity really quickly, or else it would have risked the product going down. And it wasn't just us, it was other social networks out there had the same challenge too, because the surge just generally you sort of see surges like this, but this was like a real kind of crazy surge. And so server capacity was increased pretty quickly to accommodate for that growth. And then another part of that growth, outside of just, the two things that we talked about, one was, re-engaging former users. The other one was just getting better around acquiring new users through user acquisition, organic. Just the visibility around, or the number of users we just get organically went up too. So we just had this trifactor effect of of just seeing positive growth around all of those areas. And the other thing that's been positive is a lot of these users that we ended up bringing in, they continue to stick around and engage pretty heavily in the product. So all of those things that we've been doing a lot, for example, with Leanplum, was testing around user journeys. I mean, all of that is kind of, it's not something that you should be doing now. It's something that you should be doing all the time, regardless of if things are good or not, because you always want to get better around onboarding new users, making sure that you can get them engaged. And so, so all of those things, all of those learnings that we got, have really benefited us to really enable to engage and retain these a good portion of these new users that we've gotten.
Yeah, I like the component you mentioned, that you had to switch switch gears on the technical and the operational infrastructure as well, because I've seen this so often in the last couple of months, where you have classic brick and mortar stores that neglected their online presence, didn't have an engagement management or a CRM system, and they are suffering because, again, everybody needs to be online. And I think one of the keys is how fast are we able to adjust to the new reality. And I'm curious, because I have the feeling a lot of big companies, they're, it's like a 747 to turn versus a fight to chat when you're in a startup. So it's very easy to talk like this. But what is your, do you see it the same way? I know, you've worked in very big companies, you've brought companies public into acquisition. Do you think everybody, is the level, or is it equally how fast we can react to digital transformation in terms of putting the customer in the middle?
I would say that being agile is definitely important, but it gets harder to be agile as the company gets bigger, primarily because to any action there's a reaction, right? And what I mean by that is that the bigger the company is, as you continue to sort of needing to make an adjustment either to go to this side or that side, there's a lot more stakeholders that you're going to end up impacting that need to be involved into coming to a consensus on making that decision. And and with bigger companies, it just takes longer to come to that consensus. And with a smaller, more nimble startup, you can definitely adapt and pivot a lot quicker. And that definitely has really benefited us, I would say, at IMVU, because we're, for the most part, are very nimble, and we've always been able to come to a consensus pretty quickly based on what market conditions are and how we should be reacting as a business to that. But to what you're saying, the other challenge, because I know a lot of friends that work in retail, really big brands that you think that would probably have reacted better to this, but the challenge is what people don't realize is for most major retailers, a big percentage of the revenue comes from retail. So, the e-commerce was never a big priority. It never got the right attention in the company. And so for the most part, it had legacy tech stacks to work with. And so as you have legacy, platforms, it takes a lot longer to try and even if you had to make changes, it takes a lot longer versus something that's more agile, that's more of a SaaS platform, that's more cloud-based, right?
Yeah, no, totally. I can totally relate to that. Do you feel like, because IMVU went through a lot of change during this time as well, and a lot of our clients as well, and for me it's always exciting to see that. Do you feel like it's a lasting change, or do you see it's like a, it was a one-time spike we had in the last couple of months? How can we prepare ourselves going forward to continue this movement, being agile and have a lasting transformation, in your opinion?
Yeah, so what I would probably answer that in a couple of different ways. One is that, in terms of the COVID impact, where, a lot of companies that you mentioned, that have benefited, really benefited from people obviously spending more time at home. So as the restrictions continue to loosen up, that time at home is going to become less, and so time in those apps are going to become less, just naturally, because people want to try and spend more time outdoors. But the other thing that we're seeing in the news is, as people are starting to spend more time outside, the impact of the spread is starting to go up again. So there's definitely going to be a new level of restrictions coming in. So I feel, there's going to be another wave that's going to come, but that's also the companies that were better placed from the first wave are going to benefit from the second wave, and will probably be in a better position, because they, for the most part, would have learned some really good, valuable lessons on what worked and didn't work from the first one to have in place when the second wave comes along. The other part of that I was going to mention is that, I've been through some, major economic recessions, but I've never been through a recession with so many people being out of work, and that it's really hard to sort of project how that's going to impact. And so, one way to think about that is kind of what your business model is, and if that needs to pivot and change as well. An example being, a lot of gaming apps that are primarily monetized through advertising are probably going to be more vulnerable than apps that are more hybrid, where they have diversified ways of monetizing customers through in-app purchases, maybe subscriptions, as well as advertising, because it kind of, it diversifies the risk on how you are able to drive revenue as well.
Yeah.
And then a third and most important thing, is we all have to remember that even, it's really important to focus on the customer, but even before the customer, it's really important to focus on the people and the business in the companies. Because if you don't take care of your people, then how are your people going to be able to take care of the customers? And I think, as you mentioned, some companies were probably better set up for remote work than others were when this happened. But I feel, that hopefully there's been lessons learned, whether they were good or bad, that will enable companies to be more agile and be able to better sort of execute with further restrictions that might be coming into place. Because I don't think that it's going to be safe for people to kind of go back to the old normal anytime soon, where people are just going to go back to the office. There's going to be, different ways on how that's going to happen. So more people have to get better about working remotely and still being productive and providing value. And to what you were saying, even coming up with a better way on how to say hello and goodbye on Zoom too, right?
Yeah. No, I think it's so interesting you mentioned that, because we talk about digital transformation, we talk about how our clients and how we can do it for our clients, but there's this massive change for every company where we need to go through digital transformation, this different way of work. And maybe we never go back to the full normal. Maybe it's there's some kind of hybrid model, but I think it's a challenge for every company. Is you need to nail your customer engagement, and you need to have this engagement with your employees as well to keep them productive. And I strongly believe it will create new industries and businesses. How you run HR as a business effectively if you're remote. How do you promote the right people if you don't have the water cooler conversation, for example? I think it all boils down probably. To loyalty as well, like customer loyalty and employee loyalty, and especially where we are seeing a lot of doubling down from clients and from you as well. We see a massive spike in campaigns when it comes to loyalty, because if you move your customers through this time of crisis, they stick with you. That's just how it works. If you have a good experience in a time of crisis, that's a lasting experience. Would you think the same, or how is your assessment there before we switch gears again?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I feel that loyalty is really built on trust, and trust is really built on providing value with every touch point the customer has with the business, whether it's through customer support or through when they're registering for a product, or through the stability of the product. And so so for me, when I think about growth, I always try to push the mantra that growth isn't really about one team, it's the entire company at the end of the day. Every company that you're doing, and what I try to do is try to connect the dots to ultimately, we have our metrics that we sort of use to measure growth, but I always try to sort of bring it back to like how different things that other teams are doing that are kind of leading into that, because to what you're saying, one thing about driving more loyalty with employees is to really be able to let them know that whatever they're doing is making an impact, that it's not just, what they're doing doesn't matter. And the best way to do that is to sort of show them how, providing a great customer experience, saving customers is so important because it costs so much more to replace a customer that you lose.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, I've seen all around. I mean, my LinkedIn feed is full with goodie packages from employees. But at the same time, I see it what businesses are doing as well. Goodie packages for their consumers, regardless which business you're in. But I want to switch a little bit into a topic where I feel like a lot of people thought it was a massive blow not too long ago. It was the impact of IDFA when Apple announced iOS 14 and the change in IDFA. And just for the audience, it's how users get retargeted. And right now, the change is basically with every app you have to opt in. So that's a massive change from an opt out to an opt in. And there are industry experts saying it will change to 20% to 10% opt in. I'm curious if you at IMVU thought about that, and then what the impact on the industry is, what the impact for you is, and how you're planning to mitigate what's going on with iOS 14.
Yeah, we've been thinking about that for a while. What I would say with iOS 14, or there's other things similar to that, like CCPA that just came out in July, but ultimately it's about privacy and data. It's a really hot topic, and obviously you at Leanplum know this, right? Because you guys sit on so much data for your different clients. Data at the end of the day, the key message is if somebody's giving you data, you got to be really responsible with that data, and you got to be able to provide value in exchange for that data and use it responsibly. And what Apple's done is now kind of taken it. I mean, what they had done before, they had this feature called limited ad tracking, but it wasn't visible. But now they're going to make it more visible, so people will have it front and center and have the ability to opt in or opt out of sort of sharing their data and the IDFA. Primarily, the IDFA is going to impact a lot of advertisers when it comes to to doing paid user acquisition, because if you can't really measure where you're spending your money and how those users are are, are reacting, or then you can kind of risk sort of running blind. But I know there's discussions that are already going on between all the different mobile measurement partners.
Yeah.
Like we work with AppsFlyer, but but beyond AppsFlyer, there's Adjust, there's Branch, Singular. All of them are having discussions with Apple, and Apple's got some kind of network that they're trying to provide as a solution. I think it's SDK ad network.
Yeah,
But the difference, is that the great thing with mobile measurement partners is you were getting a lot of that data in real time, so you can make decisions in real time. I think with SDK ad network, there will be kind of a delay. It would be kind of a 24 hours update on how things are going. But that's still to be figured out. But I know there's a lot of smart people in those rooms trying to solve those problems. So but the bigger one is really around retargeting too, right? Because retargeting is a big part of helping companies to retain customers. And as we mentioned, retaining customers, it's like once you bring customers in, the more you can get better about keeping those customers, the more predictability you have on growing your business versus trying to keep going and acquiring more customers. And so there, the way we've been thinking about it is, is what other mechanisms can we use to try and identify our customers? Obviously, we want to continue to provide value to our customers and let them know, that if they opt into sharing their data, then we can get better around personalizing the whole product experience for them, which is really important on IMVU. If you have a personalized experience, then it's going to be a lot better than just having an unpersonalized experience, because then you won't be able to connect. We won't be able to match you up with recommendations on like products and friendships and chat rooms that could be meaningful to you. But the other thing that we're doing more, and we're doing this with you guys, is trying to sort of reignite email as a channel, because email and other ways that we can collect information on that customers are willing to share with us, whether that could be an email or a phone number or a mobile phone number for SMS. But the idea is, we could still, one of the things we want to do now, and we're working on putting this into place, is making a much bigger effort to make sure that people are giving us accurate information when it comes to like emails or phone numbers. Because by doing the double verification and putting some blockers where people can't really get into might not be able to get the full experience in the product until they do that. And the benefit on that is because then it enables us to leverage push, which is important for re-engaging people outside of the app, but email could become a lot more effective for us as well to retarget, re-engage. But email could also enable us to continue to build these really good lookalike audiences on users that we would want to try to target across these other platforms and social networks where we were previously using IDFA. Maybe the email could become a substitute for that.
Yeah. It's so funny. I remember years ago when everybody called email dad already, and it's kind of like the comeback of the decade. I like your how you approached the IDFA topic and where you see it going. It's also interesting. I'm sure you read the news today about the EU and US data transfer, and I feel like the entire year of 2020, there's one blow coming after the other. We had to react to COVID. We had to react to the change in IDFA on the MarTech side. Now we need to make sure the user data is where is it stored to use it or to leverage it effectively. I think what we are seeing is a trend to put the customer again front and center, and to be very thoughtful how we are engaging with the customer and how we are using the customer's data. But obviously as well, we as businesses, we need to be extremely flexible. So any kind of long-term strategy most likely becomes obsolete if you can't change the plan. And I know at IMVU you have some planning process as well, but how do you feel like internally from a product strategy mapping, you from a executive perspective set yourself up to be successful in the last couple of months, but going forward as well, because everything is changing constantly, right?
Yes, that's another really good question. Every company, not just IMVU, has product roadmaps, right? In terms of what they want to sort of prioritize, because ultimately it's about trying to figure out what's the best way to improve the user experience to enable you to continue to retain customers and monetize those users. And so, what I would say, based on COVID-19. One of the things we started noticing early on was that, clearly, a lot of countries where these lockdowns were being enforced, we just started getting a huge surge of organic users. And, we had the benefit of having a desktop app that's been around for over like 15, 16 years, and it's translated into many different languages. So, we had a lot of users, that use that product. But our mobile app, is still isn't translated into all those different languages. And generally what we've done and found that works well is to prioritize the languages where we have a good number of monthly active users so that people can connect with other people that speak the same language. And so, a good example is, France and Germany were really good countries that we had on our product roadmap for the second half of this year. That we were going to translate and localize in our mobile apps in Q4. That got front loaded into Q2 because we started seeing a big surge of users coming from those countries. And clearly having the app translated and culturally more relevant would help with our retention. And so we were fortunate that our product team was able to, and our engineering team was able to pivot pretty quickly and make that change for us. And we've seen the benefit because now our retention rates have gone way better in those countries. That's one example. Another example is things like gamification is important too. And that was something that we had on our product roadmap, and that's getting prioritized and worked on, which is going to just enable us to, especially with these users that are coming in, it will be just another way to help us to build those habits for them to use the product better, and again, that will help us with retention. So in terms of summarizing, retention is a much more important piece of our business in the second half, and the product roadmap has been shifted to focus on that.
Awesome, Lomit, thank you so much. I want to summarize before we open Q&A, and obviously you can say I'm wrong or not, but I think what we learned the last hour or so is really, right now it's the time to double down on customer retention. The people which you already have, you need to make sure you nurture them. You need to switch gears and you change your strategy to engage them way more often. Secondly, don't neglect the people you already had once, right? I think you made this good point of the look back window, of win the people back, which you already won once, because your customer acquisition cost is way lower, obviously, because you already acquired them. Think about how, as a business, regardless if you're in commerce and you can ride the wave or you're in gaming, think about, even if you're in online dating where initially you think, hey, we are suffering, how you can change the mindset and switch gears to engage your audience, your customers. This being said, I think one strong point you've made as well is we need to be agile and resilient as businesses. We need to make sure we can adapt to changes, because changes are coming fast and changes usually come quickly. We just had another one this morning. We had one with IDFA a couple of weeks back. We had COVID, nobody saw coming. And last but not least, I think for everybody as well, don't forget to put the digital transformation you're doing as an organization internally in the center as well. Because if you make your employees happy, if you make sure they can operate in the most efficient ways, that the customer will feel that. Does this summarize it in a good way from your perspective?
Yeah, I would say that you hit on all of the main points there. The one thing that I would add is that we're kind of at a pivotal moment. Not only as as a society, but also in businesses where digital transformation is, as you mentioned, is just being accelerated. So the companies that don't end up pivoting quickly onto that are going to get left behind, and the ones that do are going to reap the benefits. So before there was more time to really think about it and plan this out in the next couple of years, but now it's like this has to become a much higher priority. Yeah, because a lot of companies now are thinking about surviving, and the only way you're going to survive is by figuring out ways to get become more efficient around driving revenue and cutting costs, and obviously improving productivity and keeping both your customers and your employees happy.
Yeah, no, very good point. I think you said it all. Let's open it up to the audience. If anyone has any questions, I'm sure Lomit is happy to answer. I'm happy to answer anything. So let's give it some time to get some questions in.
Yes, sure. Thanks, guys, for this. Let me just quickly end here. 1 second. All right. So let's get started with the Q&A. We have some time now to discuss questions live, but we can also discuss them at a later stage. So if you have any questions and you want to maybe email them to either of the speakers, please feel free to do so and note those email addresses down. In the follow-up, I will also provide you with a LinkedIn handle so you can connect, as well as with the recording and the slides. So yeah, let me just see.
Don't be shy, people.
Lisa, I had a quick question. Did we want to maybe do a poll and ask people about their engagement?
Yes, we can do so.
Yeah.
We can do so for sure.
Yeah.
Yes. Let me just quickly find the right slide. All right, and we're going to have a poll now. All right, you can see the poll in your screen right now. The question is, has your level of engagement gone up or down during the pandemic? So please go get to your keyboards and click yes or no, so we can go and discuss the outcomes together. All right. A few more seconds, but I think the result is getting very clear already.
I hope it's not a surprise.
I was going to say, yeah.
This tension is killing me.
Tension. All right. So let's have a look at the results. You should be able to see the results.
75%.
Yes. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, it's clear we have a lot of smart people on the listening in on this fireside chat.
Yeah. It definitely, so 75%. The level of engagement has gone up, which is it's obviously exactly what we spoke about. Everybody needs to be online. It's kind of like it turned into a necessity. I think it's what we make out of the engagement from our clients to have a long-lasting effect.
One other thing that I would add, especially when it comes to making retention and engagement a priority, is that, as you mentioned, user behavior continues to change and shift. So you got to always have that mindset of continuing to run A/B tests and keep running those experiments. And that's where we really enjoy working with Leanplum, because the thing is, it enables you to shift and adopt to the new changing behaviors of users coming into your platform.
Yeah, totally. It's like try, fail, try again, fail better, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Cool. Well, I see there's some questions now. Let's quickly go through them. So the first question I see is, how is digital transformation going to impact jobs? What are your opinions on that?
Lomit, you want to
Do you
go
want me
ahead?
to take that?
Yeah.
Sure.
You're the smart one between, you know.
So one thing that I was going to, I like to start off by saying is that, you know, I get this question a lot from in different panels around the impact on jobs and digital transformation. The reality is that, digital transformation is really there to try and help people become more productive or help businesses to become more competitive. You know, it's not really there kind of a either or situation for the most part. It's really about, right now, the level of data that companies get is so huge, and that's only going to continue to increase. As we talked about, one of the transformation is more people are going to be spending time online in digital channels. So there's the velocity of data that we had now is already enormous, is going to just get huge, and it's not humanly possible to just have people try to process a lot of that data and try to extract insights. So, leveraging AI is really important because that enables you to really process data and figure out, more importantly, insights and predictions on what you can do with that. But when it comes to figuring out, what you can do with the data, you still need human intelligence to really look at that. And we're not at a stage where a machine can just talk to a machine and just run the entire business, right? You still need human relationships. You still need, leaders to embrace change and motivate, the company to go in different strategic directions. So, I think for me, I think a better question is really to, the opportunity is, and I've seen this happen in my career, where people can either embrace what's coming, or you can try to fight that resistance. And generally the ones that embrace it, generally are the ones that end up becoming the most valuable members of the team, that end up increasing your job security because you were part of the change that wanted to embrace this. So, you end up becoming a champion for digital transformation. The ones that end up fighting it end up getting left behind because they've put more focus on trying to resist change than to try and change. Because with change, it's not only about businesses changing, but you have to change as a person in terms of your skill set. You have to start learning new things. You have to get better about understanding what AI is, what automation is. And, it can be exciting, but for some people, it could be, I can understand it can be scary too, but just like with anything, it's only scary until you open up your knowledge and learn about it. And then you can get better at it.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense, Lomit, and I'm glad that the machines haven't taken over yet. That's probably in the near future, but thank God it's not there yet.
Yeah.
So our jobs are still needed.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, great. So thanks for that one. I hope that answers the question. I have two more questions for you. I hope you still have a little bit of time. So the next question is, how do you forecast for your business during COVID-19? So right now things are very uncertain, so it's really hard making predictions. Usually you have some kind of yearly fluctuations. What would you do now? Would you go about it?
Yes, I would say that this is probably one of the hardest challenges for any businesses right now, is around forecasting, and that includes us at IMVU. And the best way to do this is really try to try and sort of figure out kind of what's the new baseline that your company has either grown to or shrunk to, and sort of use that as kind of the starting point of where you see, because every businesses for the most part have year over year trends based on seasonality. and you kind of have an idea in terms of how the seasonal behavior impacts the growth. But the baseline is clearly changed because companies that have benefiting from COVID-19 should be starting that forecasting from a higher objective versus whatever they had, and companies that have been impacted need to start from a different. But then the unknown variable is, what we found is, unemployment is going to have is a huge factor, but one way that was kind of mitigated, especially in the US and other countries, with government stimulus, that was helping people to at least have, the financial help to continue to spend money, and we, right now it's kind of unknown what the new stimulus packages are going to be, but that's going to have an impact in terms of how people and where they prioritize their spending habits in the second half of the year. That's another one to keep in mind. And then, the third one is really, based on how the new round of restrictions get implemented, that's going to have an impact based on, that's something that you can kind of use some historical data from what happened in March and April to sort of have an idea on how people might react, because that's going to kind of impact how much more time or less time people are going to spend in your app in the second half of the year. But I would say some of those are important. But there's one other thing that people aren't really may not be thinking about is the U.S. presidential election. That's going to have an impact, a profound impact, primarily because a lot of that campaign is going to be done on digitally this year, because it's very hard to go and campaign and leverage a lot of offline media like they've done historically. So from a user acquisition perspective, that's going to drive a lot of costs high in Q4 when it comes to advertising. So people just need to be aware of that. And again, the best way to mitigate your risks again, that is to focus more on retaining your customers, because the higher predictability you have on retaining customers, it enables you to have better predictability on how much you're willing to pay, because it impacts your lifetime value. And that's the piece, right? Ultimately, you got to figure out how's your lifetime value going to change, for the second half of the year, and based on the different cohorts of users that you bring in.
Yeah. No, that's totally right. And I think that the presidential election playing in there is a very good point. And it is going to be very interesting to see this one actually going very digital. So yeah, that's going to be exciting to see. Thanks for that point of view and perspective, Lomit. All right, so we have the last question here. Question for either Lomit or Johannes. The recent ruling on EU-US data transfer, it almost feels like there are new rulings every quarter, and this can be daunting for marketing teams. What are some best practices on international data storage and transfer that position brands to best handle the uncertainties of future privacy rulings? Oof. Yeah, I think that is one that is on all of our minds right now, but it's a very tricky question.
Yeah, I wish it would be an easy to answer one. I can give my take, and Lomit, you can jump in.
Yeah.
I think we are still, what we need to understand is everything follows storming, forming, norming, right? I think we're still in early stages of the internet, right? I mean, it's not that old. If you think back 10, 15 years, the discussions we had back then, how old CRM in general is and what we are considering now in CRM. So this means we will see change, right? But I think it's not always bad. There are good things coming out of that. What we need to, as business leaders, as marketeers, as technologists, we need to keep agile. We need to stay agile. We need to be flexible enough. We need to think 2, 3, 4 steps ahead, because we can't run businesses, and that comes to forecasting as well, under the assumption that how it is right now, it will be the same in 2 to 3 years, right? There will always be curveballs. I mean, obviously, if you're a US company, you don't run a data center in Europe tomorrow based on the ruling. But at the same time, it's an opportunity for a new business to make it easier to transfer your data for another business, right? So there are certain opportunities coming ahead, and I think that's the exciting component for me. So while I don't know how we best position ourselves, I think it's keeping an open mind, not losing it when those rules coming out, because we are all in the same boat, basically. That's my take. I'm not sure, Lomit, what do you think?
No, I would agree with you. You know, I kind of like that the first part that you said. Was it storming? You want to say that again? It sounded really good.
Storming, forming, norming, and then usually it's performing at the end, right?
Performing, right? Yeah. I mean, what I would add to, you know, is that there's going to be plenty of curveballs coming in. You know, and the best thing to do is instead of reacting is to first sit back and kind of just digest it from a couple of different sources and perspectives, you know. But ultimately what it comes down to is, you know, what's best for your customer, you know, and you know, when people think of brands, you know, I feel this could be an example of why it's important to build a good brand. Not build a good brand being go spend a lot of money but for me, when I think of brands, I just think of trust. You know, a brand is a promise. It's like if you say you're going to do something, then you do that. So because ultimately, you know, the reality is people are going to be giving you less data unless they really trust you. So that's the piece that I think people need to focus on, is how do you continue to build trust with your customers? How do you continue to, like with any relationship, not only with your customers, it could be with your kids or whatever, you know, you're only as good as you promise, right? So you have to continue to make the promise and continue to deliver or over deliver on that. And the reality is that, you know, with anything that involves like governments and stuff, you know, until some things are finally signed, there's always wiggle room that it's going to get changed, or, you know, but generally, you know, what people see now to where this thing is going to end up could be a lot different. You know, so I wouldn't lose sleep over it right now.
Great.
Yeah, I think that's a good perspective that you're giving there. I think we're all a little bit nervous, to be honest, what's happening there right now. I think we all woke up a bit like, oh, okay, that's a bummer. Yeah, but I think that's exactly summarizing the age that we're in, right? You have to stay agile, you have to stay on your toes, because you never know what's around the next corner. Indeed, the internet is so young, we don't even understand the half of it, right? So I think staying agile and especially staying flexible in the way of being able to adjust your strategy and things like that is just like crucial and fundamental to businesses at the moment. Okay, well, thank you very much. That was all the questions. Thank you very much for taking the time to answer the questions. For the attendees here today, please let us know what you think. You have time to send me an email back to the recording or send me a chat message here still in the webinar. That would be great to hear. And that was it. So thank you very much for your time this morning. Thank you very much, Lomit and Johannes, for sharing your insights and your valuable information. This was amazing. Thank you very much. And yeah, I'm going to go and leave you at that.
Thank you, everybody. Really enjoyed. Lomit, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks everyone for joining. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, guys. Have a good day.
Everybody stay safe. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.